enough about me. So I trust everybody's well. Do we have any questions from anybody coming on? Not as though that is the norm, but anyway. Just a couple of things from me. I think next week or the week after is National Inclusion Week. So you'll see us through our marketing team encouraging all our teams to be more inclusive about what we do, both with our communities in which we work and in fact with our own people. So let's look at embracing that National Inclusion Week. We are members now as a group of an organisation called TPAS, which I think is a Tenants Participation Advisory Service. And it just allows us to get close to our clients, i.e. those tenants out there, and not necessarily our clients in their offices, but the tenants in their homes. So, very keen to do that. And if in fact you feel that you want to know more about that, and certainly when we're writing any bids, we should be mentioning that, please speak to anybody in Alex Sprague is your contact in the centre, but your local people should know that anyway. I think the question is, are we ready? Are we ready for, to resume full trading? Are we ready to come out of COVID? Albeit there are some spikes, albeit there are some lockdowns, as we heard with John earlier. But are we ready? Are we ready to actually go out and grab the rest of what's left of it for the last month of our trading year? I've talked quite a lot about our ability to have performed very well during lockdown, and I'm really proud of all the workforce in terms of what they have done. But in reality, we have to adapt, don't we? And you have to embrace change and go on to new things and take the good things about the last 6 months now. It's incredible when you think about it, March through to August. Incredible, really, that part of your life. And I wonder how those younger members of society, how you'll remember it going forward. I know I'll remember it, certainly, but how you will remember this in 10 years or 20 years' time as to what effect it did. Do you remember when that was? I do suspect, however, that we'll have the tail of COVID for actually quite a long time. I see that from 8 o'clock this morning, i.e. an hour or so ago, in France, it was mandatory in Paris only, to wear a mask. You have to wear a mask in Paris, anywhere, doing whatever you do. This whole mask debate, it's been odd, hasn't it? Because if you remember, for the first sort of 6 or 8 weeks, the English government was saying, forget masks, it's got no relevance, it's not restricting you, it's not helping you, bother. But of course, it's come back in spades to bite us, I think. So again, I tend to have a mask in my pocket. So I'm sure you're supposed to change them occasionally. And in France, whereas they tend to go overboard on everything, especially around political correctness, the schools, children in schools have got to have 6 masks a day. Oh. 6 masks a day, because they are asked to change them at every interval, change, well, I don't know, but 6 masks a day. So a mother was decrying the fact the other night I was speaking to her, that it's costing her 32 quid a week for masks. Whereas one of my mates, well, I can get you the week for 32 pence. So, that's the difference. And again, it's one of those things, one of those natural consequences. And it always hits the people at the wrong end of society, doesn't it? That's always a sad thing. So I think, are you ready in every aspect of your life to change and embrace some of those things? Morning, Mark. I didn't see you coming on, so that's fine too. So in reality, I'm certainly ready, albeit I'm not going to be any different than I've been for the last 4 or 5 months, really, which is broadly working from home. I won't do any branch visits for the next 2 weeks, because as I told you, I'm very much on lockdown. One of the things that I did, and again, I'm not sure whether I actually announced on here. I think I did, but I've done so many of these now, haven't I? So 100 or so of them. One of the things I do, and I'm not a churchgoer. I'm not religious at all, really. But what I do with all my spare pennies and twopence, I go and give them into the collection of my local church. Where I live, right in the centre of London, it's odd because people often ask me, how do you live in central London? It must be murder. Well, I overlook a cricket field, Westminster School cricket field, and sports fields. So I probably see more grass than most other people anyway. I've got within 100 yards. I've got 3 supermarkets, my dentist, my doctor, my optician. As many pubs as you could. You couldn't do a pub crawl around here because you wouldn't get. You couldn't hit every pub around here because you wouldn't manage to walk home. Every restaurant you could ever imagine. So there's lots and lots of different things. However, there's lots of churches as well, strangely. So anyway, I go and give my coppers into the local church. For those of you with a Scottish accent, it will help you to know that you can claim a bit of tax back as well if you've got to put your name on the envelope, so you get a bit of tax back for doing the donation. Sorry to offend any Scots people on here, but of course it's a bit early for the Scots people. They won't be on here anyway yet. They'll be recovering from their night out last night, I'm sure. So again, that's how I support my local community at the same time as doing what we do on a national basis. Our furlough numbers now are down to not very many. They're reducing at a great rate. And as we're now September, is that from Tuesday, I think, clearly those numbers will drop down to next to nothing as we certainly have progressed through to do that. I said earlier about there's no point me telling slight porkies that I'm in Switzerland, because now Switzerland, Croatia, Jamaica, that's now on lockdown. So if you're in Jamaica, you'll have to do 14-day isolation, as in and Cuba, I'm told. So I don't think any of you on this call are actually in Jamaica or Cuba at the moment. But if you're planning on heading there, then don't, unless you want to stay at home for 2 weeks, which you may well do. Do I still have any more questions? Let me see if there's anybody coming on here with any questions. I don't think I can see anybody in here with any questions. Do I have Ian Charles? You must have some questions for me. Come on, Mr. Essex. What's happening?
I'm all good at the moment, thank you, Bob. Hope you're well too.
I'm well.
We're just thick in the middle of pricing another bid going into another London borough, so fingers crossed for that one.
Did you say thick? I mean, I wouldn't be bold enough to say you're thick, Ian, but I think you said you're thick. I
have got a calculator in front of me to make sure the number's correct, to keep Mr. Greenfield's profits where they should be.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid if they're not, you'll be the first to hear about it from Mr. Greenfield.
Oh, yes, I will.
Indeed. All right. Dean, what's happening in the world of lifts?
Morning, everyone. Yeah, we've had quite a good week with tender awards. We've won the Salvation Army tender, which was 69 units. So that was a good win for us, which gives us an insight into a little bit more national coverage as well. And we also picked up another 244 units for a first port tender. So in terms of awards, it's been a good week. We've got loads going on in the background, loads of activity. But again, as per all other businesses, just looking at our structure and strategy moving forward and making adjustments.
Good. Ian, do you want to bring people up to speed with what actually our JVs mean? Because I think, again, although I've mentioned them briefly, people don't really know what we do in Wales and Scotland. Can you just very briefly tell people what we do?
Yeah, Bob, really happy to do so. Good morning, everyone. So we've got 2 joint ventures, one in Edinburgh, which is called Warmworks. We have a 3rd share of that one. Joint venture partners being Changeworks, which is a charity based in Edinburgh, and the Energy Savings Trust. It's a largely boiler-related scheme, direct to the individual, no area-based element to it, and has been running for about 5 years now, with another 2 to go. It's been very successful. Was actually mentioned directly by Nicola Sturgeon as an example of, getting back to work at the time that Scotland was getting back to work about a month or 2 ago. So for a whole host of reasons, it's in a really good place. Our Welsh joint venture is called Arbed. It's based in Cardiff, just north of. It's a 2-party joint venture, so it's just ourselves and Energy Savings Trust. It's largely similar. I guess the main difference is obviously it's for the Welsh government, and we've got some different challenges with them, but we're working through them. And it's an area-based scheme, so rather than going to individual households to help them improve their energy efficiency, it's done with the local authorities, conversations with them, pinpointing a number of houses at a time and working on schemes. That's been running for less time, only really a couple of years. It's really got just under a year to go, but we're hopeful of an extension which may take the form of anything from 3 months to a year to 2 years. So Bob's on both of those JVs with me, and yeah, they're both good businesses, helping with fuel poverty and generating some contribution and profits to the business. So
good, yeah, and of course because they're joint ventures, Crispin, who's usually on here, I don't think he's on today, effectively doesn't work for us as a firm, but he obviously heads up what is a joint venture that we own half of. So technically, I treat him as though he's one of our senior guys anyway, just the same. So I think from my, does anybody else have any questions before I hand over to Peter with a usual summing up? Okay, Peter, do you want to tell us where we are financially as much as you can?
So, I mean, we're obviously right at the back end of August now. The home run or the home straight into the year end. I think, you know, Bob and I are very confident where the numbers are going to land. And in fact, Bob and I spent most of yesterday morning talking to 3 potential new investors who had reacted incredibly favourably to the announcement we put out last Wednesday. And in fact, one of those investors has bought a significant number of shares, of which there'll be more detail online later. So that's really, really encouraging. I think, actually, Bob, not talking about finance for a minute, one thing that we should just reflect on, I'm conscious both Sarah and Maria are on well-deserved annual leave for a few days. Earlier this week, we passed the recertification of our ISO audit. So what was it, 9001, I have to read them, apologies, 9001, 14001 and 50001. So really, really, you know, important as a group to be seen to get that recertification. And, you know, thanks to Sarah for leading that, but also a number of people who are involved. You know, it's another important step in the SureServe journey. Yeah,
and look, I'm not a box ticker nature, so I'm not really interested in just having a certification for the sake of having a certification, albeit certain clients want to see just got a certification. In reality, we must ensure that they add value to the business. So, you know, if it says we're going to turn left when we walk in an office, let's turn left. I know we've always got mavericks who say, "Oh, I'm going to bloody turn right, and I'm going to do." But you know, I've had enough idiots over the years decide that what they want to do. In reality, embrace what is good about these things. And if there's something in there that's not good for how you sort of think, then challenge it with your line manager. And why do we do that? Why do we always turn left? Why don't we turn, or whatever it is? So I think from my perspective, you know, things like that are great and very good, but you know, we must embrace them as a team. So I'm getting ready to pack up my house, I think, and get on my way back to England. I think, as I said, I think that's on Sunday. I've been away probably, well, just short of 3 weeks, so it'll be quite good getting back. I'm not sure the weather's going to be quite welcome because we've had glorious weather down in France, so the weather will not welcome me, but the sun usually shines on the righteous, so I'm sure it'll be shining on me, won't it? I'm pretty certain about that. Mr. Charlton, how is our insurance renewal going on, please?
Well, it's the lull before the storm, really, Bob. All the information is with the brokers. They're going out getting quotes, so they'll be coming back over the next week or so. Insurance renewal is the end of September, so as I say, they're doing the work at the moment. We're waiting for them to come back.
Yeah, and you can probably imagine, people, it's not a great time to be renewing your insurance. You know, the world is in uproar. The world is in a situation where, risk averse. You've already been told that one of the policies, which is more relevant to the senior team here, the directors and officers, you used to have to cover X million. Ooh, you're not going to get that now. You're going to have to do X, half of X, whatever it was. So again, things like this are so important, and I'm not going to lecture here about, you know, be careful when you're driving your car, and, you know, make sure you don't trip over all that rubbish. That, in the nicest way, I hope you're going about that in your normal DNA of how you run your life and the business. What, however, is key is that where there is any accident of any description, make sure you get full details, make sure you observe whatever the right protocols are, and get it to the right people as early as possible. And at that point, it can then be managed. And what does that do? It actually makes sure that we don't spend a lot more money elsewhere. So I'm going to say well done and thank you very much for signing on. I'll be around next week, of course. Well, I'm here. I'm working this morning. I see my calendar's telling me that I've got an update with Lizzie in 13 minutes. after that, I think I've got Mark Parr, where Mark and I have my details. And I see that Mark Parr is sat in my office speaking to me, so that's quite a novel way of doing it. So that's all good, and I'll speak to everybody around. Anybody needs to get hold of me, you've got my contact details on there. Feel free to contact me. You know, I won't bite you, honest. So please feel free. Good to see you. Happy weekends, people. Keep safe. Thank you.
Same to you. Cheers.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.